Hello. I'm Crystal Grant Stewart from FIC, Friends in Trouble. Back to the previous comment from the lady in the blue shirt. I just wanted to say that if a person can't come to their parents and say, this is what's bothering me, they're not going to go to their teacher and say, I can't do that. Why isn't this right? It's not registering to me. So I think it needs to start from the house before it could even start from the school. Another thing is, thanks for keeping up the 4 years. And did you think that it was hard for you the first year, the second year, the third year, the fourth year?
Honestly, for me, it wasn't difficult because it's something I was doing way before this documentary and stuff that I continue to do now, right? So, what I really wanted to come out of this is for them, these boys and their mom, they're not the type to go to therapy, right? They're not going to go and see a psychologist and sit down and say, hey, this is what's bothering me, here are my feelings and emotions. But they needed that. And this film provided that sort of outlet for them to be able to do that. So, and I think what it's done, it's allowed others that are in similar situations or circumstances to start that dialogue, to have that conversation, right? And it's many layers. You know, you look at the situation with Mikey's mom being a lesbian and being out, and the impact on a young black boy in a community that's living in a home of all women, that in a community that at times tends to be this hyper-masculine community, and what is the dynamics for him in there? How is he processing that, right? So there are many things that it's moving beyond the obvious many times, right? And I think that's part of what I'm hoping that people take from this, that things aren't as simple as it seems, right? And understanding that everyone comes into the space with a story.
Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions, and we're going to give out some gifts.
That's what? Okay. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not here to stand and speak on jane-finch, you know. But yeah, I think there's different dynamics in every community, right? But at the end of the day, I think like Regent Park, like jane-finch, like Rexdale, people just they're not looking for better, they're just looking for fairness, right? And if we can sort of deal with it on that level, because yeah, you have a lot of challenges within those communities, but I think, you know, a program like this, there has to be solutions that are tried, right? And a lot of people complain and do a lot of talking, but never really put in the hard work that it takes to actually get things done. And a lot of the end results that people are looking for, like today you start this program, okay, tomorrow, okay, there's no more crime in jane-finch, right? People are looking for instant fixes, right? So the fact that something like this is long term, I think is really positive, because you can start impacting when the young people know that you are committed, right? Because people come in and out of their lives every day. They're researched every day. There's many different projects that come to that space every day. What makes you that important that I need to give you my time, right? And that's a question that we have to, we need to really ask when you're working and go into these communities. A lot of people tend to want to come in and have that sort of hero complex that I'm here to fix you, I'm going to make you better, right? And you can't do that. You have to humble yourself in many ways and make sure that you understand the dynamics of those communities and the different blocks and the different neighborhoods and all the different factions that makes it what it is.
Hi. Hello. My name is Paulette, and I have a question towards the educators in the room. There is data out there that suggests boys learn very different from girls. And I would ask those educators that have curriculum in the school that if it's thought about, changing the curriculum to focus on the way young boys learn as opposed to young girls learn, and perhaps they could start somewhere to analyze how boys learn very different from girls and see how this sort of impact would help youth or adult males in the future.
Thank you. So we have time for one last question. Okay.
I noticed in the documentary that, I forget what the guy's name, he was more interactive with one of the youth role models as opposed to when he was speaking with his mother or speaking with the cameraman. Do you think that maybe you need more of those kind of role models in the community? Because when he was talking with the guy with the, his face, he seemed like he was just hanging out, even though he was in a school environment. You know what I'm saying? Do you think we need more youth role models like that?
Yeah, that young man, his name is Jason, and he grew up in the community, and he's what we call a student parent support worker at Pathways. And Kendall was one of the students on his caseload. But beyond that, he was also in the community, right? So his job, he didn't have days off, right? So, at the grocery store, he's going, someone's going to stop him. When he's walking through the neighborhood, someone's going to stop him. So, in many ways, that can benefit you in terms of having that, that frontline grassroots relationship with the young people. But the flip side of that is that you're never off duty, right? And you always have to be cognizant of how you move within that, because the one thing young people have taught me is that you need to be real, right? And if you're gonna, you need to walk the walk, right? So if you don't know it, say you don't know it, right? If Jay-Z is not your thing, then Jay-Z is not your thing. If you're more into the Grateful Dead, then enjoy the Grateful Dead. But understand that the music is where you can connect. The love of music, not the genre, right? Find a level that there's some connection, right? And I think that's what's important.
I also want to make a comment. When the guidance counselor was talking to Mikey, and everybody knows she was talking to him like he was never going to make it anyway. I think that there should be community representatives also playing a part in guidance in regards to, especially youth that are from those areas going to that school, because it's like they said, he wasn't an advocate for himself. So he could have simply said, no, I can do it. For him to even say that, even though he's never done it before, just shows that he has the willingness.
Well, the interesting thing about that, I was Mikey's teacher for grade 7 and 8, and he was an A student. A, some D's, but the majority of his grades were A's, right? And let's look at the facts. Here it is. He's getting 75%. He's barely going. Barely attending school, and he's getting 75%, right? So there must be some intelligence there. If I can show up today and do a test and still get 75%. Right? So instead of looking at it from that sort of, what are we talking about? Someone mentioned this, instead of using the deficit model, what are the assets that these kids are bringing to the table? Right? And when I spoke to Mikey about that, I said, so how did that make you feel? He said, you know what? What really pissed him off is the fact that he wasn't even given a chance. At least allow me to fail. Right? And she could have said, hey, you know what? There's a bridging course in the summer. You take that course. You can apply that and then, try it out. Or Mikey, you know what, if you bust your ass this year, it's something you can do. But none of those options were presented to him, right? So, yeah, it is learning to be an advocate, and how do you do that? But if you're at times it is difficult when you're a young person to stand in front of an adult and voice your opinion and your concerns. That's something that you learn, and not everyone is comfortable being able to do that.